Right now, today, I'm going off to shoot a creative self-portrait. It's in the Shakespeare Gardens. There's this like brick steeple that's just kind of coming out of the ground in the middle of the garden. And I've always thought it'd be kind of cool to just kind of have a picture of somebody posing atop it. All right, so this is about the angle that I'd like to take the shot on. Yeah, here I'm gonna come in for the shot of me now. There I am down there. Hello. All right. All right, so now I'm gonna pose the image to make it look like I'm on the same height. I'm going off by memory because I can't really look at it. So I think I was on this kind of an angle. Okay, so I just took my still photos. I did a bunch of poses, kind of like leaning over the edge, looking down, had my hand out like this. So I'm like smiling away, smiling back, having a good day with my drone. I think I've got what I need.
Wait. I shot with a remote controller in my hand, so that means that I still have to take pictures of my drone. I took these pictures in my backyard, first with the fence as the background, but then after thinking about it, it made more sense to shoot with the snow in the background. Alright, now I've got the pictures uploaded to my computer, and I'm ready to see which pictures will fit together the best. I'm going to start by looking at the pictures of the steeple. When I'm trying to pick the best shot to use, I'm looking for the images with the least amount of clutter. On a day like this, there was a lot of traffic, so I couldn't find a single image with no traffic on the streets. So what we're going to do today is use a couple different images and mix them together to get one clean overall image. Now that we have our steeple images picked, we're going to figure out which picture we're going to use of me. I'm using the color rating system in Photo Mechanic. It helps me decide which images I like best over the ones that didn't quite work out. When I was posing for the picture, I didn't want to hide behind the remote control, so I posed on an angle so it would be more obvious what I was doing. I looked in various directions to direct the attention of the viewer into different sides of the image. And now for the drone. For this shot, I want to make sure that the entire drone is in focus and that there's a little bit of blur in the propellers. As I mentioned earlier, at first I shot the image of the drone in front of a fence, but then I realized that it would be difficult to cut the propellers out with the motion blur, so then I shot them on the white snow. The contrast in color between the blur of the propeller and the white snow makes for an easy Photoshop removal. And now we're ready to Photoshop. First, we select the photos and bring them into Camera Raw. Using Camera Raw is an alternative to using Lightroom. Using sliders, you can adjust the contrast and the color of the images before bringing them right into Photoshop. I'm going to start by selecting the two images of the steeple. I will be editing their settings together so they don't mismatch. And now I'm selecting the two foreground images, the drone and myself, and I'm adjusting the color balance and the contrast to fit the background images of the steeple. Next, we load the 4 images into Photoshop. Starting with the steeple again, I'm going to select all on one image, copy, and paste it onto the other one, and then automatically align both images so the lines line up. I'll turn the top layer into a black layer mask. That way I can go in and paint out the details that differ in one from the other, like this van. And next I'll go ahead and do my first wave of cleaning up the image, just getting rid of distracting elements and things that don't need to be there. Not bad. Before, and after. On to the Jonathan shot. For this one, we're just going to be cutting it out. I'll speed it up for you. After I'm finished being cut out, I'm ready to be placed on the steeple. It's a little big, but don't worry, we're not done yet. Now that I've shrunk myself down to an appropriate size, we're going to add the shadow. It's one of the most important parts of a composite because it blends the two layers together. The next problem I need to solve is how busy the scene is. There isn't a lot of separation between myself and the background. I've decided to cut out the steeple so I can adjust the background as one image and the foreground as a separate one. Moving on, I create a blank layer between the steeple and the background. I use the gradient tool to create a thin layer of mist that will separate the background contrast from the foreground. And now we're ready to cut out the drone. First, I'll get rid of anything dark in the background that could be confused as part of the drone. Next, I'll make a quick selection to take the drone out of the picture, not worrying too much about the propellers at this point. And now we're ready to bring the drone into the main image. Here I just cleaned up the lines a little bit, added some flare to the lights, and then added the propellers in. Since the propellers are on white, I just changed the layer mode to multiply, placed the layer behind the main drone image, and then played around with the contrast to have them show. As you can see, that wasn't quite enough, so I made circles in Photoshop and then just placed them over where the propellers needed to be. I played around with the opacity for a while until it looked right. And now that all my main elements are intact, I just have to play around with the composition and some final touches. Although the image was already pretty exciting and just about finished, I knew that it needed a little bit more impact. So I decided to add a heavy vignette on the background layer. And here we are, before and after. Perfect. Well, if you lasted this long, I just want to say thanks for joining me on my creating of the drone image in Shakespeare Gardens. I'd also like to mention, if you have any questions for me regarding the making of this image, or any questions in general, feel free to leave them in the comments box.